Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm gonna learn you the basics of JavaScript functions and how to use them. So, what is a JavaScript function? A function is a code block that you can use over and over again. Like if you write a very long code and you want to reuse it, instead of writing it all over again, you can just use it again. You will see. I'm not so good at explaining, but you will see. So, you can write a function with the function keyword, and then the name of the function, like add nums, add the numbers. Then you can add the parentheses, and then the curly brackets. Now you have written a function, but it doesn't do anything yet. Between the curly brackets, you can write your code that you can that will be in the function. So we want to add nums together. Alright, so we can do a console.log. And then here we can use 1 plus 1, for example. Simple math. And then we can call the function with add nums. We can try to first run the code without calling it, and this happens. Nothing. But if we call a function like this, we run the code, and we get 2, because 1 plus 1 equals 2. So if we change this, we get 4, and we can call this many times as we want. We get 4, 4, 4, 4. But what if we wanted to get a different value at nums 2, or the second add nums? Well, between the parentheses we can add parameters. To add a parameter, you write like num1, and you can add another with first comma and then the second parameter name. A parameter is like a variable but inside a function, so you can only use those parameters inside the function. It's like the input to a function, and then I will explain how to get the output from it. Alright, so we want the num1 plus num2, and then we can add 10 and 6. The first one will be 16. The other ones will be none, which means they don't know what the parameter is. We can add, if we don't add a value to the parameters inside here, the default value will be 0. So we will not get none, we will get 0. Alright, so you write a function, but this is not, you don't want to write it out with console.log, because if you want to later show it on the web page, we can't output it to the console directly. We want to get the value from num1 plus num2. Alright, so how do we do that? Well, we can take away console.log and write return num1 plus num2. So what happens if we run the code now? Nothing, because we don't display anything, we just returns it. So this is the same as 10 plus 16. This is or 10 plus 6. This is equal to 16. So if we display this with console.log, we get 16. Great. So with this, we can now write complex code and still reuse them. So you learn about parameters, you learn about functions, the return keyword. Yeah, you can also do this, like const x is the same as add nums 9 4. This will be the same as 13. So if we add x here, we get 13. Great. So you can add the function value to the variable, and a normal function, when you create a function, it will be a void function. But when you return something, in this case numbers, which is an integer, it will be a number. So if we check here, function add nums, and then it will be a number. We wouldn't have this return, it will be a void. Yes, yeah, it's good to know. Alright, so what can we do now? Well, you can store a function in a variable, like add nums again, and we do equal to function, and now you created a function. You can write it this way, like console.log, just to check that it working. Yeah, and we need to call it. Working, yes. The difference between this function and the normal function is, well, I can show you the normal function first. This is a comment. I will take this in a later video, maybe. Otherwise, you can just write / before, and you get a comment. Alright, so a normal function, you can write add nums normal. Alright, normal function, and then we call it before we create it. So with the function keyword, we can call the functions whenever we want. We don't need to write those, because the program checks all the lines before and checks for the function, and then it remembers what the function does, and then you can call it wherever you want. You don't need to call it after you created the function. You can call it before also. But with a variable function like this one, you created it with const. You can't call it before, because we will get an reference error. Because this just saves the function is the value as to the variable. So like a variable, you can't call it before you create it. That's good to know. You can also write a function this way. You can take away the function keyword and you write an arrow. This also works. This is called a callback function, and it's often used when you need to use a function as a parameter to another function. I'm not gonna talk about that in this video, but maybe later. Alright, and this would work but as the same, oh sorry, you can't call it before. Alright, so that's the basics of functions, and yeah, hope you learned something. Goodbye.